So I'm continuing my quest of watching the MCU in chronological order building up to the release of Endgame. I already posted my video talking about watching Phase 1 in chronological order. Right now, we're going to dive into Phase 2. Let's do this. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is part 2 of my casual conversation going through the MCU in chronological order. I released my Phase 1 video of watching that in chronological order, and the big difference there is the new movie Captain Marvel, sticking that movie between Captain America, the first Avenger, and the first Iron Man movie. It kind of helps reframe Captain Marvel and shift some expectations. Right now I'm going to dive into Phase 2 and pick up right after the first Avengers movie and go chronological. So here is the order that I watched Phase 2 in. Iron Man 3, Thor, The Dark World, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Avengers, Age of Ultron, and last but never least, Ant-Man. So that is this series going off in chronological order in Phase 2, and Guardians Volume 2 is the addition now to Phase 2, because when you put it in there chronologically, it really does take place within months of the first movie, so it fits nicely right there. The cool thing about doing this chronologically is seeing the beginning of Tony Stark's descent into fear, and kind of how this fear has been resting on his shoulders like a great big huge burden. Because Tony Stark, kind of like the rest of us, viewed the world as like, I don't know, there could be aliens out there, who knows? But then all of a sudden there's the events of the Avengers. The first time a huge alien invasion was like public. I say the first time it was like public because I think S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of put the events in New Mexico with the first Thor movie under wraps. They definitely had Captain Marvel under wraps. So I really do believe the Avengers is the first time that the world and the general public has seen there are aliens and we are not alone. So Tony Stark, this very scientific mind, kind of believing what he sees and all of that stuff, now faced with portals in the sky, Norse gods like Thor being an actual reality, actually being in a war and fighting with aliens. He's struggling with post-traumatic stress. He's struggling with anxiety, and he's struggling with the fear of, wow, what if they come back? What else is out there? And so this is the beginning of that fear, and kind of watching him go through Age of Ultron where that fear gets manipulated some more, and then finally ending us with Endgame, the last place we left off, where Tony Stark is like facing off Thanos, the dude that brought the first alien invasion. So this is like the very beginning of Tony Stark's journey through this fear that one day aliens will return. Then you get into Thor, The Dark World, and I think what really stands out to me most watching this chronologically is the whole other alien invasion that happens at the end of this one, when the Dark Elves come to England and they release, you know, the ether through the portals and stuff that are forming because of the convergence, and so, you know, the ether's like that. So first off, it's the revealing of the second Infinity Stone. We already got the first one with the Tesseract, the cube, and now we're building towards Thanos with the ether, the second Infinity Stone that is now revealed to us. So that story gets deeper and continues on, but my gosh, yeah, we know them as Dark Elves, but to the general public in the world, it would just be aliens. It would be this UFO decloaking in the atmosphere, landing here in England. Could you imagine Tony Stark watching CNN and seeing another alien invasion happening in England? Could you imagine how that fear continues to be reaffirmed in him? And probably after he blew up all of his suits in Iron Man 3, kind of got his brain going to start, okay, let me just start rebuilding some suits here because they're back. And so, you know, you have that whole thing going on. So that stood out the most to me. And of course, this is the beginning of the storyline where Loki plays dead yet again, and then comes back disguised as a guard, and then takes out Odin and disguises himself as Odin. So it's kind of cool to see like the origins of that and kind of revisit that. Captain America, The Winter Soldier has got to be one of my favorite MCU movies. I just love like the action spy genre feel that they put on this movie. But think about this. When you get out of Thor, The Dark World, we've had our second alien invasion within 1 year of the first. I mean, it has been a year, maybe a little bit less, maybe slightly more, but in that neighborhood, only about a year since the Avengers and the first great, big, huge alien invasion. S.H.I.E.L.D. is supposed to be this organization that doesn't just protect us from threats here on Earth, but from what we saw in Avengers, they have the technology and ability to help fight and protect us from threats above. And we find out Hydra has been infiltrating this thing from the beginning. This poison has been growing from within, that this entire organization is utterly corrupt. I mean, even the good guys were thinking of taking away our freedom in the name of trying to stop threats. And so even there, like, bad philosophy was already spreading. And it's interesting how the Winter Soldier digs into that philosophy, but then you can really understand, like, the fear of those senators when you have Black Widow at the very end of this and she dumps all of S.H.I.E.L.'s secrets on the internet. So right there, probably Captain Marvel becomes unveiled to the world. Thor in the incident in New Mexico becomes unveiled to the world. So here's these senators saying, S.H.I.E.L.D. was supposed to be here to protect us, and now it's gone because of you. And she's like trying to explain, no, we really helped save you guys. And so here she is trying to explain this, but you can understand the fear. Huge alien encounters within a year of each other, and now we're feeling even more vulnerable to see something evil like Hydra growing in what was supposed to be good. So that's really interesting to dig into it that way. Now, my friend Austin Burke on his channel, he said chronologically do the 2 Guardians movies first, then come back to Winter Soldier, because then you get a little break from what's going on over here with the Avengers, get a fun space odyssey adventure, and then Winter Soldier takes us back to Earth. That is awesome, and that is a way to do it. Here's why I did it: Winter Soldier first, and then dove into the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies. You have Age of Ultron that begins with the Avengers already together. In fact, the opening of the movie is the end of a quest they'd been on. They'd been on a quest to hunt down Hydra bases to find Loki's spear, and they didn't even realize they were looking for the Mind Stone, our 4th now Infinity Stone that gets unveiled in Phase 2, taking us yet even closer to Thanos, which is just incredible in and of itself. But the fact is, the Avengers were already back together. So I like to do Winter Soldier and then dive into Guardians, because then we go off into outer space and get some fun, while down on Earth, Steve Rogers gets the Avengers back together to hunt down these Hydra bases and to find this spear. So while we're watching, you know, Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, and his troop do their thing, we know on Earth the Avengers are reassembling and beginning that mission that we see the end of in Age of Ultron. Plus, you get into the first Guardians of the Galaxy and we get the Power Stone. So this Phase 2 is a very big phase of leading us to all these stones and hammering the idea of Thanos. Who is he? How powerful is he? What a big threat he is. I believe the first time we actually hear the name of Thanos in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is right here in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And then we get Guardians Volume 2, which I think is made stronger by watching the first one back to back with it. That's just my opinion, but one way or the other, it was fun to watch these 2 movies back to back. And finally, that leads us to Age of Ultron. Like I said, we get the next Infinity Stone, the Mind Stone, and we get to see the power of the Mind Stone to create this incredible artificial intelligence in both the Vision and in Ultron. I loved James Spader's performance as Ultron. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Plus, this is the beginning of our introduction to Wakanda. It gets mentioned by name, and what they talk about in the film Black Panther, all of that vibranium being stolen, we actually get to see Claw with that vibranium that he stole. So it's really interesting to see these events kind of fall together. And then last but never least, Ant-Man. And Ant-Man is a fun way to kind of decompress. Like, once you've seen all this big stuff about Infinity Stones, creating artificial intelligence and space odysseys, here is a down-to-earth, awesome movie that is just, I mean, Paul Rudd is fantastic in this movie. It's a really good one to dig into. Plus, it is a great way to kind of move things forward, because we got Ant-Man as part of Civil War. We got the beginnings of Quantum Realm talk, which we know is going to be important in Endgame. So even though it is a light-hearted kind of fun way to decompress, it does contain important things in carrying everything forward in the MCU. So that's me watching Phase 2 in chronological order. Have you watched the MCU in chronological order? What do you think? Let's talk about that in the comments. While you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next ranking video, movie review, theological analysis, trailer reaction, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.